Okay, and everyone else is muted. Great. All right. See, we got a little bit of a late start, but we'll make up for lost time, I'm sure. So last week, we were speaking about the situation in lockdown and needing to see things from a more spiritual perspective. And if you weren't here last week, so that's okay. You don't have to have been here. But more or less, we spoke about turning on the lights, so to speak, and trying to have a more spiritual view of the situation and more specifically of the people in our lives. One second. Now, today, the topic is specifically we're going to be talking about parent-children relationships. And we'll try to relate it somewhat specifically to a situation of lockdown and corona and quarantine, but also in general, we'll speak. Sorry. About parent-child relationships. So I think the proper place to start would be like this. There's an old joke about a few old ladies, old Jewish mothers in Florida. I mean, they're from New York. They retired to Florida. You know how it works. And they're sitting on the boardwalk in Miami Beach, and they're bragging about how much money their children spend on them. So the first one says, my son bought me a car for $40,000. Wow, very impressive. The other one says, my son, he bought me a condo for $200,000. The other one says, my son, he spends $350 an hour 3 times a week in therapy every week for the past 25 years. And all he does there is talk about me. So every joke has a little bit of truth. And sometimes we say that every truth has a little bit of joke. What's the story of, the adult child in therapy for 25 years, hours a week in therapy, and all he speaks about is his mother? The truth is this. We, as parents, have an inordinate influence on our children. It is scary how much of an influence we have on our children. We don't like to think about how much influence we have on our children. But that's the reality. Think back to your own childhood. Think back about things that you remember from your childhood that your parents did or said that were majorly influential for you, that are core memories. And they may not even remember. Like, even if you would ask them about it, I did that, I said that, I don't know. I mean, don't remember that, right? And for you, it was a world-defining, reality-defining moment. I mean, obviously, the difference is that, when you get older and you have more experiences, so time goes faster. Remember when you were a kid and you were in school and you didn't like your teacher and you said, I'm going to have to be here for a whole year. It wasn't even a year, it was 9 months, 10 months, and it felt forever. And now, when you're an adult, 10 months goes like this. You could have a toothache that you need to look at. And how long's your tooth been hurting? I don't know, 10 months, 20 months, whatever, a few years, not that long, right? Time goes fast. Why? Because as you get older, you had more and more and more experiences. So each experience is a smaller fraction of the amount of experiences that you've had in your life. You get what I'm saying? But when you're a kid, every little experience is, well, if you've had 1,000 experiences in your whole life, so each experience is much bigger of, a fraction of your life. When you had 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 experiences in life, so then each experience is just another, tiny little piece of one of many, many, many other experiences. So we're really, really, really influential on our children. And when they grow up, the kind of people they are, their personality and their confidence and their, whether they're optimistic or pessimistic, so much of it is really affected by the way we raised them. So we're having such a huge influence on these people's lives. And it's really scary if you think about it. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. I think we should. No, I'm joking. I'm gonna scare you first, and then hopefully we'll get some comfort here. But first, we have to be scared. Um, it's such a responsibility to be a parent. There's a story about a chassid back in Russia. His rebbe, it was the Tzemach Tzedek, actually, the third rebbe of Chabad, told him to be a teacher, a school teacher, a malamed. He says, I'm afraid to become a malamed because the responsibility is too great. And so his rebbe says to him, and who should become a malamed? The guy who's not afraid? So if we're afraid of our responsibilities as parents, we're okay. That's a good start. But now let's talk about it a little bit. What should we do with that fear? So I think there's an important thing to understand here. Our sages tell us that there are three partners in a human being: a mother, a father, and the Holy One. And what does that mean? It means on one hand, we have godlike power in our children's lives. We are considered co-creators with Hashem in our children's lives. That's scary. Like we were talking about, that's pretty scary. At the same time, however, we are co-creators in our children's lives. Yeah, I'm using the same statement in two different ways. On one hand, it's very scary that we're given so much power, that we're co-creators along with Hashem in our children's lives. We have this inordinate amount of influence in their lives to shape their futures. That's the scary part. Co-creators, wow, like partners with Hashem. That's scary. That's like beyond a human type of task. On the other hand, we are co-creators with Hashem in our children's lives. On the one hand, it's very scary that we are co-creators with Hashem in our children's lives. On the other hand, you know what's comforting? That we are co-creators with Hashem in our children's lives. What do I mean? What I mean is, what's a partnership? What are partners? They say that once there were two guys, one had experience and the other had money. So they made a partnership. And by the time they were done, the one who had experience had the money, and the one who used to have money got some experience. When you're a partner with somebody, when you make a partnership, that means you pool your resources. You share resources. When we are partners with Hashem in our children's lives, we get to share resources with Hashem. And that means, although parenting is a job that is way too hard for any human being, way too demanding for any human being to have that level of responsibility in somebody else's life, the good news is we were given godlike power when it comes to raising our children. What does that mean, godlike power? Not godlike authority, godlike power. A lot of parents want to have the godlike authority to tell their children what to do. It's not a mitzvah to tell your children what to do. It's a mitzvah for them to honor you and to listen to what you tell them to do. That's their mitzvah. That's not your mitzvah. It's a big difference. It's not your mitzvah to tell them what to do. It's their mitzvah to listen to you. It's not your mitzvah to tell them what to do. It's your mitzvah to teach them, to give them the proper tools in life. And in order to be their teacher, we have been given godlike power. The godlike power of infinite patience, infinite wisdom, infinite time, infinite love. A finite being doesn't have enough wisdom, time, patience, love to raise a human being. But a finite being who is partners with an infinite being and has access, therefore, to the infinite resources of the infinite being does have infinite love and infinite patience and infinite wisdom and infinite time and infinite attention. What's the proof of this? You know what the proof is? That when you have a child, one child, your first child, you love your child with all your heart. And then you have a second child. Do you love your second child with half a heart? Because now you're going to love your first child with one half of your heart and the second child with the other half of your heart. Then if you have 3 children, you divide your heart into thirds. If you have 10 children, you divide each child has a 10% of your love. No, it doesn't work that way. Something miraculous happens, something godly happens, something infinite happens. You have 10 children and you love all 10 of them with all of your heart. That's just an illustration I think that we can relate to that shows us how, when it comes to parenting, although it's a job that requires godlike power, it's a job that gives us godlike power, or for which we've been given godlike power, and we've been given infinite resources. Our job is to view ourselves that way. We need to realize that when we're parenting, that this is not an interpersonal relationship. It's not one human being dealing with another human being. When we are parenting, we are acting as representatives of the Creator. It's the most godly role that you will ever fill in your life. You know, it's interesting, the 10 Commandments are written on 2 tablets. You know about the Ten Commandments, God was going around the ancient world and he was asking different nations if they wanted his commandment. And he asked the Edomites, would you like my commandment? And they said, what's a commandment? He's like, it's something you have to do. And they're like, nah, we don't want any limitations. We'll pass. So then he went to the Ishmaelites. He said, you want a commandment? They said, what's a commandment? He says, it's something that you have to do. Now we don't want anything we have to do. We'll pass. Then he went to the Israelites and he asked Moses, would you like my commandment? And Moses said, how much does it cost? God said, it's a commandment. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. Moses said, in that case, we'll take 10 of them. So you know the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments are written on 2 tablets. And the 2 tablets are interesting. They can be divided into 2 types of obligations. 5 obligations between man and God, and 5 obligations between man and his fellow. So you have obligations on the right tablet, the first tablet, because in Hebrew we read from right to left, right? You know the story about Henry Kissinger wrote to Golda Meir, and he told her, because he wanted her to know that Henry Kissinger was the Secretary of State under Nixon. So he wanted Golda Meir to know that he's not going to, just because he's Jewish, he's not going to show any favoritism to Israel. So he says, I want you to know that first, I'm a politician. And second, I'm an American. And third, I'm a Jew. And she wrote back and she said, it's a good thing that here in Israel, we read from right to left. Okay. Anyway, so the first tablet, the right tablet, those are the obligations between man and God. So you have things like, I'm the Lord your God. You should have no other gods. Things like Shabbos, things like not taking Hashem's name in vain, right? So those are obligations between man and God. Then the other tablet, the left tablet, you have mitzvahs that govern interpersonal relationships. Like don't murder, don't steal, don't covet, the things that have to do with you and other people. So I'll tell you something interesting. The mitzvah to honor your parents, which tablet is that on? On the right one or the left one? I'll tell you something funny. I was one time I had a class and I was looking for a picture of the 10 tablets, or the 2 tablets, 10 Commandments. And I did a Google image search. And I actually found, see, this is why you got to be careful with the internet. No joke. It actually took me to a Christian website. I didn't even realize it until I looked and I saw that they had the 10 Commandments split up with 6 commandments on one, 4 commandments on one tablet and 6 commandments on the other. And they labeled them obligations between man and God, obligations between man and man, which is correct. Those are the 2 categories. But then they divided, instead of having 5 and 5, they had 4 and 6. You know why? Because the 5th commandment is honor your parents. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the last commandment on the first tablet, on the tablet that's between man and God. But the Christians read it and they said, well, between honor your parents, that's not between man and God. That goes on the other tablet between man and man, because that's an interpersonal relationship. You're a person, your parents are people, so it's interpersonal relationships. But that's not correct. I mean, the fact that they took the commandment and they moved it over, they cut and paste and they put over to the other side, that's not where it belongs. Honor your parents is on the first tablet, and there's a reason why. Because as we were saying, a parent has godlike power, and a relationship with your child is in many ways the basis for your child's relationship with God. Again, not to scare everybody, but the way your child will relate to Hashem, the way they will think of their relationship with their higher power and spirituality, has an awful lot to do with how they feel in their relationship with you. So we have this huge responsibility, but at the same time, we were given this huge empowerment. But we have to view ourselves that way. We cannot view ourselves as people dealing with people. That's not the correct self-concept. We have to view ourselves as God's emissaries, God's representatives in our children's lives. And realize how much power there is in the parent-child relationship. I will tell you something that I'm not going to back up with studies or statistics, because I don't know the studies or statistics. I just know what I see and what I deal with. What any expert can do for your child, the world's greatest expert educator, the world's greatest expert therapist, what any expert can do for your child doesn't come close to what you can do for your child. You can have a whole team of the world's greatest experts, and they cannot replace what one parent is able to give a child. And in some cases, there's no choice. The parent is not competent. The parent is not willing. And therefore, a child needs a staff of people who are loving and devoted. And with Hashem's help, such children do have a chance. It makes life a lot harder that way, but they do have a chance. Okay, but sometimes that's the situation where a parent is just not available or not willing, and so you need a lot of help in order to get this child through to adulthood. And even then, an adult who had other loving adults, an adult who as a child had other loving adults in their life, but it wasn't from a parent, that's a scar that never goes away. No matter what anyone will tell you, even if they become very strong, they will tell you it is a scar that never goes away. Okay, and obviously, if somebody has to do it, they have to do it. There's no choice. But what's ironic to me is when you have a situation where the parent is in the picture, the parent is willing to help the child, and what does the parent do? The parent goes looking for other people to give the child what the child needs. They go looking for the perfect educator or the perfect therapist, and obviously support is good, and having different people helping out with raising a child is good, but it doesn't come close to what one parent can give. And so parents go around looking for who can help my child. My child's struggling right now. Who can help my child? Well, the answer is there may be many people who can help to some degree, but nobody can help to the degree that you can. And that's really the first step in parenting, is to realize how much power we have and to reimagine ourselves, to get a new self-concept as a parent, to view yourself as having that power of Hashem's emissary, the representative of Hashem in this person's life. There's a story of a Hasidic Jew back in Russia during the communist era. He was sent to Siberia in a work camp, and they had contraband in the barrack where he was staying. They had contraband. What was the contraband? Is they had a pack of playing cards. They weren't supposed to have, but they had a pack of playing cards. And one of the guards figured it out and was trying to bust them. So every time the guard would come in and try to find the pack of cards, it would disappear. And this was driving the guard crazy because he knew they had a pack of cards. He knew they were playing cards, but every time he came in, the pack of cards was gone. So finally, he told the prisoners, he said, listen, I'm not going to punish you. I just want to know where's the pack of cards, because it's so, it's driving me crazy. So finally, they said, fine, if you promise not to punish us, we'll tell you. He says, yeah, I won't punish you. Just tell me. So one of the guys these guys it was a prison. Most of them were real criminals. Some of them were political prisoners, like the chassid who was there. But others were just criminals. So one of them, he was a pickpocket. He says, listen, I'm a pickpocket. That's how I made my living, is taking people's wallets out of their pockets. He says, but I want you to know something. Not only do I know how to take something off of somebody's body without them feeling it, I know how to put it on their body without them feeling it. He says, he says to the guard, every time you come in here to find the cards, I take the pack of cards and I put it in your pocket. And then you turn over the whole barrack and you flip over the beds and you lift up floorboards and you never find it because it's in the one place where you're not looking. It's on you. And then when you give up and turn around to leave, then I just pickpocket again and I pull it out of your pocket. So the Jew who was there, he said, from this little story, he learned a humongous lesson in life, that sometimes what we're looking for is not outside of ourselves, but it's inside of ourselves. And I think that when it comes to parenting, this is a prime example. We want somebody to fix our children. Okay, there's nothing wrong with getting help. Nothing wrong with a great educator. Nothing wrong with a therapist when it's needed. But even if you have all the help in the world, your child still can never get from them what they can get from you. And now let me be more pointed. Let me be more clear. What am I actually talking about here when I say that what you can give your child, nobody else in the world can give your child? First and foremost, or perhaps entirely, almost entirely, what I'm talking about here is bonding. Your bond with your child. Like when Joseph put Benjamin in prison and Judah said, no, I have to bring him back home because his father will die without him. He says, Nafshoy kshura b'nafshoy. His soul is tied up with his soul. That the father is connected to the child so that they're like one life. And if his child doesn't come back to him, he won't be able to live. Connection of nafshoy kshura b'nafshoy. His soul is connected to his soul. What does that mean? What does that mean? So think about to yourself. Have you ever had a good friend? A real friend, a true friend? How would you define a true friend? So some people would say, and by the way, when I work with parents, this is what I always ask them. I ask them, define for me a real true friend. And the answers that I always get are, reliable, trustworthy. Okay, fine. Let's go deeper. Non-judgmental. Okay. You can be your real self in front of them. You can be completely vulnerable in front of them. They know the real you. You can trust them. You can be yourself with them. They know you at your worst and still think you're the best. So then I usually ask parents, okay, great. Let me ask you something. That sounds like a wonderful friend. Do you want to have someone like that in your life? Maybe you do already, but would you want for yourself to have someone like that in your life? And most people say, yes, of course I would. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay. And I assume you love your child. Would you like your child to have somebody like that in their life? Yeah, of course I would. Then the next question I usually ask is, would you be willing to be that person for your child in their life? And that's where the hesitation comes in. Well, I don't know. Who says I'm supposed to be my child's friend? So let me tell you something. Your child's not supposed to be your friend, but you're supposed to be your child's friend. The way you just defined a friend. What's a friend? You just said someone who truly knows you, truly cares about you. You can be totally honest and vulnerable with them. That's a friend. So yes, you should be that for your child. Your child should be able to come to you and be who they really are and know that they are unconditionally loved. Now, that doesn't mean that your child should be your friend. That would be sick. That you should be able to go to your child and bare your soul and be vulnerable and they should accept you for who you are. No. That's unhealthy. But when your child needs somebody to turn to and to be honest with and to feel accepted and safe, if they're not going to you, who do you want them to go to? Because I'll tell you something. If they can't go to you to feel accepted, they'll find someone who makes them feel accepted. And you're not going to have any control over who that is. A starving person will take whatever food they can get. And what happens is everyone wants to feel that validation. They want to feel that relationship where they are accepted. And if they have it at home, you're talking about a strong person. Strong. Because they don't need to go around searching for that elsewhere. But if they don't have it at home, it's a human need. They go looking for it. And what happens is people that we're closest with are influential over us. We can't help it. There's nothing we can do. It's just human nature. When we're close with someone, they have influence over us. So what happens? Our children go seeking the person who says, you know, yes, I know you. Yes, you're special. Yes, you are loved. Yes, you are accepted. And then whatever values that person has, that becomes the child's values, because we take on the values of the people we're closest with. Now, if you're lucky, they're going to get that validation from somebody with good values, and they'll take on those values. But there's no guarantee. And statistically, the likelihood is it won't be such a person. It'll be somebody with bad values, or even worse, someone with bad values who's using your child. And they don't really accept your child. They're using them. So we have to realize that the most important thing we can give our children for life is a bond that's so strong and so secure that they will never feel that desperate hunger for validation, acceptance, approval anywhere else. Now, it doesn't mean they can't have other friends. Of course they can. But we need to know that we have given them the most we can in providing that kind of validation, that kind of safety, so that they may look for other relationships. That's fine. Eventually, you want your child to grow up, get married, right, and bond with their spouse. But they should do so as out of choice, not out of desperation. So let's make this real practical, or I don't know, I think it's practical. When parents have a problem with a child, whatever it is, behavior issues, discipline issues, all that kind of stuff, my first question is always, how's your bond with your child? Well, let me tell you what my child's doing. No. I'm not interested actually in what your child's doing. My question is, how is your bond with your child? Because the real power you have is in that connection. And when you have that connection, they will automatically emulate your values. And in the long term, the greatest guarantee you have for your child's success in following in your ways is the bond that you have with them. It's not through trying to control them. Certainly not by trying to instill fear in them. It's not by punishment, and it's not even by reward. Those things are all external. Ultimately, what makes or breaks it is the bond. And the bond means, like we said before, this is the person that I can truly be myself with. This is the person I can be vulnerable in front of. This is the person who I'm not afraid for them to know the real me. We all want to have someone like that in our life. If we love our children, of course we want our child to have someone like that in their life. If we're smart parents, we want to be that person for our children in their life. Now, I just want to talk a little bit more when I said that we need to be a friend to them. They don't need to be a friend to us, because we don't want to, God forbid, use them to give us emotional stability, right? Because that's enmeshment, and that's very, very, very unhealthy when we try to get our emotional needs met through our children. It's actually one of the worst forms of abuse, because it's so insidious, people don't even think of it as abuse. But I want to make another disclaimer. In addition to that disclaimer, I want to make a second disclaimer. And that is, being your child's friend and confidant and being there for them so they feel so safe and so secure with you means exactly what I said it means. And it doesn't mean Here, let me tell you what it doesn't mean. In fact, these two things are worlds apart. They have nothing to do with each other. They're just two opposites. It doesn't mean being the cool parent. You know what the cool parent means? The cool parent, the permissive parent, the one who is, who tries to get the kids to like them. There's nothing more pathetic than the parent who tries to get the kids to like them. But let me explain to you why this has no place in what we're talking about. And why it's actually the opposite of what we're talking about. I don't need my child to like me. I don't need my child's approval. I need my child to trust me. In other words, I don't need my child to think I'm okay. But I do need my child to think that I think that they're okay. I don't need their approval, but they thrive when they have my approval. Or to put it in a very simple way, it's about giving and taking. When I'm trying to get approval from my child, that's trying to get something from them. I'm a taker. I'm taking. That's not healthy. That's not the parent-child dynamic. It's supposed to be one way. I'm the giver. I'm the provider. So I give them security. I give them love. I give them approval. I give them validation. And I take nothing. Oh, what about me? What do you mean, what about me? I'm partners with God. If I need validation and security, I get it from God. I get it straight from God. But what do I, in my relationship with my child, I give them approval. I give them security. I give them validation by showing them I'm unconditionally proud of them. But I don't need their approval. They don't have to think I'm cool. That's fine. It's okay. But let me talk a little bit more about this. How do you actually bond with your child to such a degree where they feel totally accepted and validated by you? So I mentioned the term before. I said it really quickly. I didn't really explain it. And that's unconditional pride. Very important concept. A lot of people know about unconditional love, and they think that's a radical concept. Unconditional love. But I think by now most people understand. Yes, unconditional love. That's a parent, right? Even if my child's a bank robber, I still love them. What I want to add to our repertoire is something even more extreme, though. Unconditional pride. That's what a lot of people struggle with. Well, hold on. Even if I have unconditional love for my child, doesn't mean I have unconditional pride. They have to do something for me to be proud of them. So I want to tell you two things. First of all, it's not true when your child was a baby lying in their crib, making in their diaper, you didn't say to yourself, let's see what this kid accomplishes and then I'll decide whether or not I'm proud of him. You looked at this little baby who could do nothing but slobber and drool and make in his diaper, and you said, this is my pride and joy. You were proud. Why did that change? Do you know that there was a study done that shows most children, small children, have great self-esteem, and around 4 or 5 years old, their self-esteem plummets. You know why? School. When they're little children at home, they get pride. Their parents are proud of them just because they're proud of them. They don't have to do anything to earn it. Then you go to school, and it's all about earning your status. It's about performance. And their self-esteem plummets. Because now their self-esteem isn't secure. It's tied to something that, If I perform a certain way, then they'll be proud of me. If I don't, then they're not proud of me. Disaster. Disaster. When did we make a child's sense of worthiness conditional? What kind of heresy is it that a creature of God needs to earn their worthiness? So the first thing is, you were proud of your child when they were a baby. They didn't do anything. Second point I want to make is that, well, maybe more of a religious argument, but God says about his people, he says, your nation is all righteous, branch of my planting, the work of my hands, to take pride in. Lihispoer means to take pride in. Doesn't mean that we did anything. That's separate. Yeah, God is proud of us when we do the right thing, right? It's a pleasing feeling for Hashem when we do what we were told to do, when we fulfill the commandments. But that's a separate pride. There's first a pride, an intrinsic pride. He's proud of us just because we're his, which is the way we feel about our children when they're babies. We're proud of them just because they're ours. They didn't do anything. They don't need to do anything. They're intrinsically worthy. So remember, I started off and I said we have to view ourselves in a new way. We have to see ourselves as partners with God. We have to have a spiritual view of ourselves as parents. So now I want to add the other side of that equation, which is we have to change the way we view our children. We have to view our children in a spiritual way. Viewing our children in a spiritual way means to realize that they are children of God. Not just our children, they're God's children. And as such, they are intrinsically worthy, unconditionally worthy, infinitely worthy. So my child always has my pride, not just my love, my pride, unconditionally. When we meditate on the fact that our children are God, and they are intrinsically worthy, unconditionally worthy, infinitely worthy, we see them in a totally new light. And we treat them differently. And they feel it. And they feel the safety. They feel the security. They feel that they can be open and vulnerable and bond with us. And when they're able to do that, when it's safe for them to be that close with us and to bond that strongly with us, you know what that does for them? That sets them up for life. Someone who has that rock solid relationship with a mother or a father can conquer the world. And I'm not saying there are no people who conquered the world and did amazing things and didn't have a great relationship with their parents. There are such people, but it makes it really hard. It makes it really, really hard. And even when they succeed in life, there's still a scar that doesn't go away. If we want our children to be successful in life, why not give them the one thing that A, has the strongest influence on their success, and B, is the thing that only we can give them. Not only are you the only one who can give it to them, but you can't even hire someone else to give it to them. Parents spend so much money trying to get experts to give their child what one father or a mother really does. I'm telling you, one hug from a father or a mother is worth tens of thousands of dollars of professional help. One hour of taking a walk with your child and letting them just talk to you about their life. But you know what? In order to get to that hour, you know how many thousands of hours you have to spend in that trust? What are you going to do? You're going to take him on you're going to say, Rabbi Taub just gave a talk. Now I'm going to force my kid to go on a walk with me and open up to me. He's not ready to open up to you. You didn't spend 1,000 hours earning that trust. But you can start now earning that trust. And the way to begin earning that trust is by granting unconditional pride. And the way to get that unconditional pride is to start taking on your child as God's child. Your child is a soul, a perfect soul. They came to this world on a mission. And your job is to nurture that soul. To give it love and security and safety and validation. And when we do that, I'm telling you, we create strong adults. They grow up to be strong. And they know what their values are. And they're not people who run around trying to get approval from everyone in the world. Because they already have that rock solid self. So meditate on your children, on the godliness of them, on their soul. And meditate on yourself, on the godliness of your role as God's partner in parenting. And try to then parent from that place in you to that place in them. Soul to soul parenting. From your soul as a parent to their soul as a child.
Sorry, hi. David, I think Rabbi Jeffrey is not feeling well, so even though I was sort of not ready tonight, I was busy with something else. He asked me to finish the evening. It's for those who don't know, it's Michelle Siffer, I manage the Herschel Wise Children and Family Centre. We are funding Rabbi Taub. Sorry, I only came on halfway through, but did we want to do some questions and answers? Is that the next plan? I missed the beginning. Have people been sending you questions, Rabbi Taub? Hello?
Yeah.
So
people write questions.
To...
People wrote questions in the chat.
So do you want to take some of those questions now?
Yeah, people write questions, yeah.
Has anybody sent any questions, or has anybody got any questions they would like to ask?
Well, they can just type, they can send them to me privately.
Yeah.
Here. Okay. Okay, you see me? That's my name. And you can send me, hold on. I put it privately. Hold on, I'm going to put it to everybody. Okay. Hello. See here? You can send me one. Okay, someone says, I sent one last week about Shabbos and lockdown. Okay, where did I put that? You're right. I kind of remember last week I cut and pasted some questions. Trying to remember where it is now. Oh, my son was regular attending school, learning before lockdown, and continued through until Shavuos, from when Garden Minyanim restarted. But now it seems to have gone downhill, and when the shuls are reopening, he's not interested in going because he now feels the minyan is too early. School only starts at 10 a.m., so why should he get up early now? He's still happy to go in the evenings. Should we leave it or keep trying to push him to get up to go? Oh, that was it, right? That was what you wanted? That was the question from last week? Yeah? Yes, okay, fine. So I'll answer the question based on what we were just talking about. And you don't have to answer me. I'm just going to put it out there. So he doesn't mind going in. First of all, he's a child who was going to davening before on his own. Beautiful. That's amazing. Adults don't like to go daven. A child goes to daven on his own. Beautiful. What an angel. He still goes in the evening. An angel. He doesn't like going in the morning because it's early. Yeah, I don't blame him. My question is, do you go in the morning? Now, I'm not actually asking you. I'm asking you to think about this. If I'm going to morning and I'm bonded with my child, maybe I can get him to come with. Because if my child's super bonded with me, yeah, okay, so you're answering in the private chat. I'm not actually asking you. I'm asking you to ask yourself. So like you're saying, your husband gets up very early and he goes, okay. So here's the thing. If he's going, then maybe you can get your son with him. Or he can get your son to go with him. But you have to think about it in those terms. I can't send my child to do something. It's not going to work. I can invite my child to do something. Now, I can only invite them to do something that I'm doing. If the father is going to shul and he's inviting the son to come with him, like a big boy, father and son, a man's thing, right? Going out to shul, manly thing, going out to shul, right? Mommy doesn't go out to shul. Mommy's at home. And you present it that way, then maybe he'll do it. Now, maybe he won't. It's tough to get up early. But what I'm saying is that the way it should be done is not sending a child to shul or sending a child anywhere, but bringing a child with you to shul. And the same with anything or anywhere. You bring the child with you. Everything's a bonding experience. Think about it this way. If the whole the relationship with us, so sending them anywhere is basically sending them away, even if it's to a nice place like shul. Sending them away. But bringing them with, well, you're answering, he's 15, he doesn't like my husband's shul, he goes to his own shul. I would tell you right there, then your husband should go to the shul that your son likes. That's what parents do for children. Why should your husband schlep your 15-year-old to the shul that your husband likes? Your husband's already an adult. He's already going to shul. Now, let him go to the shul that your son likes. And every single morning you go out and you get a coffee together and you get a Danish. Is that what they call it in England? I don't know, a little sweet roll, a little pastry. And you make it a fun thing, father and son outing. It's a general approach. It applies to shul, it applies to everything. It applies to learning. Don't tell a kid, go learn. You say, come learn with me. That's how we have success. There's a question here, from what age should we expect a child to daven? I don't know, every child's different. Should we encourage a child to daven if they're not interested? If there's davening in the home, if they see davening, that's how you encourage them. It's just, if it's a loving home and your relationship with them is close and you're davening and there's davening going on and that's part of life, then automatically it happens. But if there's not a connection and you just tell them, go daven, okay, so they'll pretend to daven to get you off their back. My 14-year-old son is a pleasant, well-behaved, and very laid-back boy. Takes his time getting ready for school or shul and usually ends up rushing out the door last minute, usually late. How can we encourage him to be prompt without nagging out the door at the last minute? That's a long-term project. That's a long-term project. He has a certain nature. You want to change that nature. So the first thing is there's nothing you can say that will change it. It's a long-term project. You're changing his nature. So we all would like to believe that there's some little thing I can do, and now the child who struggles with getting out the door will be able to get out the door. It doesn't work like that. Think about your personality and the things that you struggle with. How long you've been struggling. The things that you're struggling with right now, how long have you been struggling with them? Yeah, how old are you, right? You've been struggling with them your whole life. So you have things you've been struggling with your whole life, and now you want your child that whatever it is he's struggling with, that should go away. Doesn't work like that. To help a child to change a midah, to change a character trait, you have to be invested in the long term. Let me give you one tool. I'll give you one tool. One tool is, we all know, I hope we know, that negative attention doesn't work. Avera gereris avera. When you call attention to failure, it breeds more failure. So what we want to be all positive. But how can I be all positive? My child's engaging in a behavior that's not acceptable or it's not desirable. So here's what you can do. Look at the behavior. The behavior in this case is taking too much time to get ready and then ending up needing to rush. Waiting until the last minute and then being forced to rush. So that's the behavior. A behavior is just a behavior. You have to then think to yourself, what is the midah behind the behavior? And then you have to think to yourself, what is the value, the positive value, that this midah is a lack of? So in this case, maybe it's being organized. You know, that's a value. Being organized is value. Like having a schedule, having an itinerary for your day. How, knowing where am I going to be at this time, and being conscious of how long it takes to get to a place and how long certain things take. Right. So that's a value. Being time conscious or being organized. So then make a mental note. Okay, that is the value that my child is struggling with right now, as evidenced by this undesirable behavior. Then you want to wait, and you want to find him doing something, anything that resembles that value. Even the tiniest thing, you catch him, just like we know how to catch kids messing up, catch him doing the right thing. Catch him doing anything, even the tiniest behavior that shows that value. So for instance, and even if it's tiny, even if it's like so small and it's like, and you think to yourself, it's really significant, it doesn't matter. The point is, he did it, and you catch him at it, you label it, and you praise it effusively. So if there's a time ever where he, like, leaves the door, he goes outside, instead of the last possible second, he leaves the door a minute before the last second, right? So instead of dawdling until the last second, he dawdles until a minute before the last second. And you see that he consciously chose, I'm going to stop, doing whatever I'm doing right now, wasting time, and I'm going to leave now so that I'm not going to be as rushed. So even that tiny thing, okay, let's say he should have left 20 minutes ago. Now he's leaving, but yesterday he left even later, and today he's leaving a little, and he's doing it consciously. He has to be doing it consciously.
Yes,
So then you catch him at it, label it, and you say to him,
must be Western
wow, fantastic, tremendous. I see you just made a choice to get out with a little bit more time to spare. When a person hears a positive thing they did, reinforced and labeled, Mitzvah geredes mitzvah. One mitzvah causes the next mitzvah. So this is what we have to do. We have to be very, very, very smart and very, very, very patient. If a child's struggling with a midah, with a particular character trait, make them out. What's the target value that we want them to become strong in? And then catch them exhibiting a behavior, any behavior, no matter how tiny, that resembles value, and label it to them and praise them for it, so that we can start to create momentum. We start creating positive momentum. I have a 10-year-old son who's very determined and very stubborn, both with her siblings and parents. I've tried repeatedly to view her as what Hashem sent to us with all her characteristics, but this gets difficult when she makes life difficult for those around her, and they see her as being selfish and awkward. What else can we do to help ourselves and simultaneously help her? I mean, I just talked about it just now for the past 10 minutes. That question is no different than the previous question. So the previous question, there's a 14-year-old son who had a problem with procrastinating. You have a 10-year-old daughter who has a problem with being stubborn. It's the same answer. She's engaging in behaviors that are undesirable. What midah does that reflect a lack of? And what's the value, the positive value that you want to instill in her more? And then what would be possible behaviors she could exhibit that would be in line with the positive value, the target value, let's call it. So you have to catch her doing anything, even the most minutely thoughtful or flexible. You say she's stubborn. It's the opposite, flexible. When she does anything even minutely flexible or thoughtful or something, taking other people's feelings into account, you have to care at it. Wait, somebody's telling me I'm muted. Am I muted? No, I'm not muted.
No, you're not.
Just wrote, I'm not muted.
Maybe they're muted.
Maybe they're muted. Anyways, my husband offered, but the shul he likes is unique. This is really only a lockdown issue so far, as before lockdown he happily went by himself. Oh, okay, you're still talking about that thing? So then let it go. If it's only a lockdown issue, let it go. All right. What else? Struggling with homeschooling. Daughter doesn't see me as a teacher. Is this okay?
Can I answer this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Leave her alone. Forget the homeschooling. Just let them enjoy themselves. It's been too much for the kids. We just said, leave them alone now. We had a lot of questions in our center about it. We're like, what are you forcing your kids to do? You just have to think the 4 months, whatever they gained, they gained. But nobody can be expected to sit and learn like that for months. Just let them enjoy. Parents' jobs are not teachers. I mean, I have very strong opinions about it. So just leave them alone.
Well,
sorry,
I would
Rabbi Taub.
almost agree, but I would no, don't leave your child alone. That's neglect.
Yeah, okay. No, I would definitely say that. Yeah.
Don't leave them alone. Bond with them. Don't leave them alone at all. Bond with them, but don't police them and don't force them to do something to make you and them miserable. Yes, so, but don't leave them alone. Bond with them in positive ways, and that's a lot more powerful than anything else you can do.
Can I ask a question?
Positive time that you spend, one second, where the child feels safe and secure. Okay, when you want to know, was it a bonding moment? Because something, I spent so much time with the child, we were bonding. No. Bonding means, did they feel safe and secure? Did they feel that you are someone that they can relax with? Okay, so when they feel that, when they can feel that, like their true self with you, that's called bonding. All right.
Well, I was just going to say that. I don't know if it's a question or it's a comment, but obviously we run the Children's Center, and I'm very, very involved. I've been very involved with COVID and the steering group and everything that's been going on in the community since the beginning of the 4 months. And I just feel very strongly that the kids were sort of made pariahs in this whole I don't know about in America, but in England, they were made to feel that at the beginning that they're super spreaders, and then, and wherever you went to shops, it said, don't bring the children in or whatever. And I just feel that we have a lot to do to make the children feel that they're valued again, because society began to see them. I've seen people, when they see a child in a shop, that they're running the other way, that, you know, it's a mindset. And I think we have a big responsibility to make children feel they're valued, and they're not the pariahs in this at all. I mean, I've not heard the word super spreaders for 4 months, because it's proven that the children were. So I just wondered if you had any comment on that. If you heard it.
You're talking about giving children a sense of approval?
I'm just, in general, I just feel that the children were really, we don't realize their schools were banned. A lot of them were taken away from their friends. The society was telling kids, stay away, you're the super spreaders. And we have to make them feel, I think we did an avla to the kids with this whole corona, and we need to bring it back, show them that they're valued and wanted.
Yeah, what you're saying, they were given a message that they're rejected somehow?
Yeah, I think that society in England has been responsible for that because of the virus. That you know, they're almost like second-class citizens. They weren't allowed to go to school, take away from their friends, you know, stay away, super spreaders. And we've just got to make sure now that they realize that there's no damage because of that.
Right. Well, the thing, it's not like anyone was rejecting them and saying, oh, you children, you know, you're bad. It was just, there was a situation in the world. They have boundaries. It's okay. You know, not everybody can do everything at every time. So the fact that there were certain restrictions, that's fine. That's fine. The thing is to make sure, like you're saying, it's important that they shouldn't feel rejection, but there's no reason that they should automatically feel rejection from it. Especially, I mean, hopefully things are changing now, so this hopefully won't be so relevant. But you know, for a lot of children, being at home and being in quarantine is an amazing opportunity to boost them with tons of approval. Because I got to tell you something, school, unfortunately, is not necessarily a place where they feel tons of approval. And for a lot of children, not having to go to school was an answer to their prayers, because school was a place where they felt that their self-esteem was being undercut. Now, a child who feels that way about school and about home, that's really, really rough. But we have to make sure that at least home is a place where they feel they are wanted and that they belong and that we enjoy him around. And the fact that we're all home and we're all under the same roof, that's great. We're thrilled about that. We're absolutely thrilled to have you around more and to be in your presence more. And we should never, ever say anything like, oh, it's so annoying everyone being on top of each other. Obviously, that would feel like rejection. I got to go in a couple minutes. I see there's a bunch more questions, though. Let me just try to rattle them off. Is there a place and time to express disappointment as a way to push them harder? Yeah, to push them away from you harder. Go ahead. Express your disappointment with your child, and you will push them away from you harder. And who you're pushing them toward, I can't promise you. Okay. What do you say for a 14-year-old girl who gets anxious about her school exams? Again, that's a midah. That's something that's a character trait, take an entire lifetime to change. And if you want to help her change it, it's about a lifetime of being there for her and giving her the strength to slowly change personality trait. So the process will be just like we were talking about before. We said it about the kid, the boy who leaves the house at the last minute and has to rush. We said it about the girl who is stubborn and antagonistic towards her siblings. Same thing here, you know, child who has anxiety. So we want to try to analyze what is the value that they're lacking, what value target, See them, catch them when they're exhibiting the proper value, even to the tiniest degree, and validate. Okay.
That's it.
I did with my child for 20 minutes, and the child doesn't listen afterwards. Does that show the bonding wasn't effective? No. What if you dieted for 20 minutes and you didn't lose weight? My Lord. You're not bonding with them then. You're trying to manipulate them, and you're calling that bonding. You have to commit for a lifetime. Maybe when you're finished raising them, they'll listen to you. Please, no. You do not. No. Come on. All right. If your child as an adult is pained by disappointment, not being frum, not going the path you've shown them, how can we still have unconditional pride? Isn't Hashem also hurt? How can we bridge to love and have pride? What should I try to work at home with children who are still at home and they give up even before trying and start shouting and they don't? Okay, so there's a bunch of questions here. Let me just finish with this one. When I said unconditional pride, I mean exactly what you're saying. A child who does not follow in the path that we have tried to educate them in is the one who's your unconditional pride. Hashem is proud of them. You're saying this is for Hashem? Hashem is proud of them. Ma'aseh yodai lihispo'er. Hashem says about every Jew, this is the work of my hands to be proud of. Hashem is proud of every Jew. So why are you not proud of them? Now, is there such a thing as having nachas from the fact that they do the right deeds? Yeah, that's a second thing. But that's built upon the first kind of, and the first kind of pride is unconditional. See, that's why I say this is all based on seeing your child as a neshama. Because if you don't think about a neshama, then basically what's a child starting off with? They're starting off with 0. And they have to earn their worth. And if they do the right things, then they're worthy. But if they start as a neshama, then a neshama already has worth, has infinite worth. Infinite worth. And everything they do is only built upon that foundation. This is, by the way, I think the big challenge of our generation and of our time is realizing the infinite, unconditional, intrinsic value of every single one of us. And that if we would recognize that, we would save a lot of pain and rejection. And we would allow people to come back to the path much quicker and much more easily. Okay, I got to run now.
Thank you very much. I just want to remind everyone next week is about spousal relationships, same time. And thank you everybody on behalf of the Shais Center and co-host Dr. Jeffrey and who's disappeared. But thank you and have a good week, everybody. Thank you.